Good day. We will be discussing regarding cascading style sheets or CSS. Cascading style sheets or CSS is the W3C standard for defining the presentation of documents written in HTML and in fact any XML language. Presentation again refers to the way the document is delivered to the user, whether shown on a computer screen, displayed on a cell phone, printed on paper, or read aloud by a screen reader. With style sheets handling the presentation, HTML can handle the business of defining document structure and meaning as intended. Through the use of CSS, we can have precise type and layout controls. That means that you can achieve print-like precision using CSS. Through the use of CSS also, it provides less work. You can change the appearance of an entire site by editing one style sheet only. This also ensures consistency of formatting throughout the site. CSS provides more accessible sites. When all matters of presentation are handled by CSS, you can mark up your content meaningfully, making it more accessible for non-visual or mobile devices. HTML was never intended to contain tags for formatting a web page. HTML was created to describe the content of a web page. It indicates if the content is a heading 1, a heading 2, or a paragraph. When tags like font and color attributes were added to the HTML 3.2 specification, it started a nightmare for web developers. Development of large websites where fonts and color information were added to every single page became a long and expensive process. To solve this problem, the W3C created CSS. It removed the style formatting from the HTML page. To use a style sheet, you may start with a document that has been marked up in HTML. Second, write style rules for how you'd like certain elements to look like. And third one, attach the style rules document. When the browser displays the document, it follows your rules for rendering elements. The two main sections of a rule are the selector that identifies the element or elements to be affected and the declaration that provides the rendering instructions. The declaration, in turn, is made up of a property and a value, separated by a colon. One or more declarations are placed inside curly brackets. In the example, the selector is heading 1. The declarations are the property color with its value blue, and another property which is font size with a value of 12 pixels. In this HTML file, we use P or paragraph as our selector with the property color, its value as red, and another property text align with the value center. Let's discuss more about CSS selectors. In the previous example, the heading 1 and paragraph elements are used as selectors. This is called an element type selector or element selector, and it is the most basic type of selector. The properties defined for each rule will apply to every heading 1 and paragraph element in the document respectively. The class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. To select elements with a specific class, we write a period character followed by the class name. In the example, we use the class name center. With the properties text align, its value as center, and property color with a value of red. Another type of selector is an ID selector, which selects an element based on the value of an element's ID attribute. It is indicated with the use of a hash character. In the example, our ID name is para1, with the property text align, with its value center, and property color with its value red. The grouping selector selects all the HTML elements with the same style definitions. In the example, the heading 1, heading 3, and paragraph has the same property as text align with the value of right. It will be better to group the selectors to minimize the code. To group selectors, separate each selector with a comma. Sometimes it is helpful to leave yourself or your collaborators comments in a style sheet. CSS has its own comment syntax, as we have in our example. Contents between the slash asterisk and asterisk slash will be ignored when the style sheet is parsed, which means you can leave comments anywhere in a style sheet, even within a rule. One use of comments is to label sections of the style sheet to make things easier to find later. When a browser reads a style sheet, it will format the HTML document according to the information in the style sheet. There are 3 ways to insert CSS. First is the external style sheet. Second is internal style sheet. And the last one is inline style. An external style sheet is a separate text-only document that contains a number of style rules. It must be named with a .css extension or suffix. The .css document is then linked through the use of our element or imported into one or more HTML documents. In this way, all the files in a website may share the same style sheet. This is the most powerful and preferred method for attaching style sheets to contents. The link element defines a relationship between the current document and an external resource. The link element goes in the head of the document as shown in the example. The rel is equal to style sheet defines the linked document's relation to the current document. The value of the rel attribute is always style sheet when you are linking to a style sheet. href is equal to mystyle.css provides the location of the .css file. You can include multiple link elements to different style sheets and they'll all apply. If there are conflicts, whichever one is listed last will override previous settings because of the rule order and the cascade. The internal style sheet is the type of a style sheet that we have worked on with on our previous examples. It is placed in a document via the style element and its rules apply only to that document. The style element must be placed in the head of the document. You can apply properties and values to a single element by using the style attribute in the element itself. Inline styles apply only to the particular element in which they appear. Inline styles should be avoided unless it is absolutely necessary to override styles from an embedded or external style sheet. What style will be used when there are more than one style specified for an HTML element? If some properties have been defined for the same selector or element in different style sheets, the value from the last read style sheet will be used. Assume that an external style sheet has the following style for the heading 1 element, which is color cyan. Then, assume that an internal style sheet also has the following style for heading 1 element, which is color orange. All the styles will cascade into a new virtual style sheet by the following rules, where number 1 has the highest priority. First is our inline style, or which is inside an HTML element. Second is the internal and external style sheet, which is located in the head section. And the last one will be for our browser default. Going back with our example, if the internal style is defined after the link to the external style sheet, the heading element or the heading 1 element will be orange. However, if the internal style is defined before the link to the external style sheet, the heading 1 element will be cyan. Thank you, and I hope you learned something from this. God bless.